All righty, we're off and running.
Can you
Um,
hear me, Rick?
hey,
Can you?
thanks for coming, Terry. Um,
Hi. I just sent you the document, but I found I was missing a section. It needs to be proofed. But anyway, it's there if you want to use it.
well,
Um,
Betty has the prayers, so we can. That's the big thing, is to put the prayers up when we get to those.
oh, good. All right. Thank you.
But let's get going with the. This is a prayer that Sandy Beach did when he was leading a spirituality workshop. It's an app in my phone. And Betty, we're recording this, so if you speak, it's implied consent. Audio only. Here's the prayer. God, we miss you. We miss you with breaking hearts. We seem to have lost our way and are so very lonely away from you. We want to come home to you more than our hearts can bear. Thank you for our complete defeat. Thank you for the pain of the downward journey. Thank you for leading us to each other into the path of seeking you. Please allow each of us this weekend to experience your presence at a new level, and from that to show others how to better know you. May we always be in the present moment with you. Now, this is advice. When you're restless, irritable, or discontent, kneel and ask God to keep me abstinent. And the other thing is that recovery is only good for 24 hours. You pray, go to meetings, and tell the truth. And then the book Alcoholics Anonymous was written with the assumption that the steps would be taken in a matter of hours. And this is a quote from what Bill Wilson said in 1951 from the podium in Hollywood, California. Don't make a project out of working the steps. Go through your day being the sort of person you would like to be, trying to help someone else, making sure you don't hurt anyone. When you get to the end of your day, review the 12 steps, and you will find that you have worked all of them. I like that quote. In the 1940s, newcomers to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings would frequently be sent to newcomer meetings to work the steps before attending the regular meetings. This is how many groups achieve success rates of 50 to 75%. Sandy, thank you so much for coming. And we're recording this, so it's audio only, but it's going to go on YouTube. We just want everyone to know. Beginner meetings were required to be in regular meetings. The man who wrote the book, Back to Basics, interviewed 100 people who'd been sponsored by Dr. Bob, the guy Wally P. He did a lot of work. And then the book Alcoholics Anonymous is too complicated for newcomers. Dr. Bob read the book to them, to the newcomers. And in the 1940s, sponsors called sponsees. Sponsors also would go to the house and call on their sponsees. In the 1940s, a little different than how we do things now, sponsors would choose the sponsee. And then Dr. Bob made the statement that this is a simple program. And I like Clarence Snyder. He was in the first 3 editions of the big book, The Home Brewmeister. And this is a quote from him. This is a simple program. If you think it is complicated, you are not working it the right way. All righty, we're going to have an open discussion for 5 minutes. I'm not sure I can time it, but what I want to discuss between everyone in the group is, how did you find your abstinence, or how have you heard of someone finding their abstinence? I'll get us going that I found my abstinence in a meeting.
I'll share, Betty.
Yes.
I found my abstinence, actually before I was at a meeting, I had found a book. I don't know how long we're supposed to share, but and it was through reading the book, and the action was written before there was a 12 and 12, and for OA, and by following the actions that this person took in the book, and then I got to a meeting and worked with the sponsor. But that's how I found my abstinence.
Okay. So the
The
book
first time.
and doing what it said in the book.
Yes.
I'm Mary, I'm a compulsive overeater, and I found my abstinence by attending ITR in the rooms video site, and getting a sponsor and working the steps with her. I didn't get it right away. It was a process for me. You know, as I worked the steps, I became abstinent. It wasn't just like, I'm abstinent. It wasn't like that. It was a slow process, and I made a lot of, I made several relapses before I got it. I feel like I'm doing pretty good one day at a time right now.
So you had more of the awakening.
Yes.
I'll share on that.
Yeah, Terry.
Very compulsive overeater. Well, the first time I got it by using the tools of OA. And since then I have this idea that if I use all the tools, online tools, that abstinence flows from using those tools. And I have conceived of it as there's a Polish psychiatrist or psychologist. I can't really say his name. I just looked it up. It's Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi or something like that. And he wrote a book called Flow, where he talked about the preconditions that sets up this state of flow. And Rick and I have talked about like exercise, which is like the 10th tool of my program, and how when I use the 9 tools, then I have this 10th tool, exercise, that abstinence seems to flow from me having met those preconditions. And second time, I'll just quickly tell my other story. The second time I got abstinence, I had lost it, and I heard in a meeting that somebody said they asked for abstinence every day, you know, like personally address their higher power on their knees. And so I did that, and it wasn't working, I thought, but I kept doing it. And I got it down to at night, I would go out and buy like a half gallon of ice cream, and I would have the abstinent all day, and then I would eat this ice cream, which totally screwed me up. Obviously, I don't even know how many thousands of calories that was. So anyway, I prayed again. I went running out to my car at like 10 p.m. to get the ice cream to go get it, and I had left my lights on, and my battery was dead, and it just flashed through my mind. It's like, this is how he does it. So anyway, I didn't get the ice cream that night, and I got a recurring abstinence. So I passed. Thank you.
Excellent. And I've heard many recovery stories where people found their abstinence in prayer, like Terry. I would think prayer would be one. And then I've also heard of people that it was not until they got on their knees and prayed that they found their abstinence. And then another one I've heard from multiple people was that they called their sponsor before an eating binge.
I got another one, Rick.
Go ahead.
This is one that I heard, but that was very important to me. But Harlan G., pretty famous person from, I guess he's from Chicago, but he told his story on the LA Intergroup there in the podcast. He's a guy that got up to 700 pounds, and he tells his story in a big boot camp, because he got down to a regular weight, a normal weight, but he got his abstinence in AA meetings. He he came to prefer going to AA meetings to OA meetings in Chicago. And I think he lost about 300 pounds because he preferred the sobriety concept or what he encountered in the AA meetings. But I bring that up just because of what we're doing today. I think it speaks to this back to basics approach, which was an AA way. And I pass. Thank you.
Thanks, Terry.
This is Sandy,
Sandy.
and I've heard about absence just by going to meetings. I hear the people's stories.
Okay. Thanks, Sandy. Thanks. And I know I've heard of other people that it was going to AA meetings. I know a guy in California, he's been abstinent for 40 years, and he worked the steps in AA. He got an AA sponsor. And what I want you to maybe glean from this is that not everyone finds their abstinence the same way. And maybe if you're struggling, you could try some of these different approaches that we've talked about. I'm always curious as to how people found their abstinence. And I think for almost everyone, the going to meetings is helpful, and you learn from other people. And in essence, for all of us, the group is a higher power. It's not God, but it's in meetings. And I would say that for me, to keep my abstinence, I have to be in the group Alcoholics Anonymous. This is not a problem that I'm able to take care of by myself. Anyone else want to share some way that they've heard of somebody finding their abstinence?
Well, I will also say that I've now been abstinent for the length of time that I've been in the program. For this current abstinence, I basically put it on my higher power and just said, higher power, you want me to do it? You've got to do it. And totally just, I've heard people turning everything over to higher power, and that's what I had to do, is do that. And I was able to do that.
Excellent. All righty, I hope everybody's up for another discussion, because we're going to do another 5-minute discussion on what are health problems associated with being overweight, and you could throw in anything with anorexia, bulimia, or poor nutrition. Does anybody want to share about health problems that you've experienced or you just know about from being overweight, not eating nutritious food, and the anorexia or bulimia?
This is Jerry. I'll share on that.
Go ahead.
Very compulsive eater. Well, I mean, when I weighed 340 pounds, I had high blood pressure, was nearly a diabetic, and when I came down 120 pounds, that all went away. And so I'll just pass on that. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, Terry. My personal one was that, and when I came to OA, I was only 40 pounds overweight, and my knees hurt. It limited how much I could get out and just walk. And my orthopedic surgeon told me, if you'll lose that 40 pounds, your knees won't hurt. And yet for 3 years, I continued to stuff my face and not lose that weight. And it wasn't till I came to the Overeaters Anonymous that I was able to get down to a healthy body weight. And now, I can go out, I'll go out this afternoon, do a little 3-mile walk with the dogs. Something which I could not do. Most of the time, if I tried to walk a mile, I couldn't do it. My knees hurt. It's hard on your joints. I think people, knees replaced, hips replaced, increased chance of cancer and heart attack and Alzheimer's, and Terry mentioned the diabetes, the high blood pressure, and the simplest thing in the world. At one time, I was 310 pounds, It was hard to get off the couch because I was so big. I didn't like it. Anything else? And I would just mention that I know people in the program that for some reason they do not eat a balanced diet. And that makes your abstinence very, very hard because in my mind, your body is screaming for certain nutrients. And if you ever touch a binge food, and it's getting you on two different levels. But anyway, let's go on. I think we've covered that pretty well. We're now going to get to the part which I really like. We're going to start reading out of the big book, and we're going to start out on page XIII. That's Roman numeral 13. Now, some of these I'm going to read, but if other people want to read, that's fine. This is in the foreword to the first edition. We of Alcoholics Anonymous are more than 100 men and women who have recovered from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. To show other alcoholics precisely how we have recovered is the main purpose of this book. For them, we hope these pages will prove so convincing that no further authentication will be necessary. We think this account of our experience will help everyone to better understand the alcoholic. Many do not comprehend that the alcoholic is a very sick person. And besides, we are sure that our way of living has its advantages for all. And then we skip down to the bottom of the page. We are not an organization in the conventional sense of the word. There are no fees or dues whatsoever. The only requirement for membership is an honest desire to stop drinking. We are not allied with any particular faith, sect, or denomination, nor do we oppose anyone. We simply wish to be helpful to those who are afflicted. And then we go to page 17. Page 17. On 17, this is the last paragraph. The tremendous fact for every one of us is that we have discovered a common solution, that we have a way out on which we can absolutely agree, upon which we can join in brotherly and harmonious action. This is the great news this book carries to those who suffer from alcoholism. And then we jump back to page 28, XXVIII, in the doctor's opinion. Does somebody want to read that first full paragraph? Or I can read it. We believe...
I will read.
Yeah, go ahead. That first, we believe and so suggested, that first full paragraph.
Okay, we believe and so suggested a few years ago that the action of alcohol on these chronic alcoholics is a manifestation of an allergy, that the phenomenon of craving is limited to this class and never occurs in the average temperament drinker. These alcoholic types can never safely use alcohol in any form, and once having formed the habit, found they could not break it. Once having lost their self-confidence, their reliance upon things human, their problems pile up on them and become astonishingly difficult to solve.
Excellent. If you would jump down to the last full paragraph, men and women drink essentially.
Men and women drink essentially because they like the effect produced by alcohol. The sensation is so elusive that while they admit it is injurious, they cannot after a time differentiate the true from the false. To them, their alcoholic life seems the only normal one. They are restless, irritable, and discontent unless they can experience the sense of ease and comfort which comes at once by taking a few drinks. Drinks which they see others taking with impunity. After they have succumbed to the desire again, as many do, and the phenomenon of craving develops, they pass through the well-known stages of a spree, emerging remorseful with a firm resolution not to drink again. This is repeated over and over, and unless a person can experience an entire psychic change, there's little hope of his recovery.
And in one more paragraph.
On the other hand, and strange as this may seem to those who do not understand, once a psychic change has occurred, the very same person who seemed doomed, who had so many problems he despaired of ever solving them, suddenly finds himself easily able to control his desire for alcohol, the only effort necessary being that required to follow a few simple rules.
Thank you.
Thank you for reading.
Thank you. And then, if you would, in my book, they had me when I did this, at the bottom of 28, where it says they are restless, irritable, and discontent, if you will underline restless, irritable, and discontent, and I have a little note here that says, if you feel this, pray. That's a good idea. That's a very good idea. Now, we're going to go to page 30, the next page, and it's second to last full paragraph. All these and many others have one symptom in common. They cannot start drinking without developing the phenomenon of craving. This phenomenon, as we have suggested, may be the manifestation of an allergy which differentiates these people and sets them apart as a distinct entity. It has never been, by any treatment with which we are familiar, permanently eradicated. The only relief we have to suggest is entire abstinence. Now, from there we go to page 44. We jump around a lot in the book, but that's okay. It's a couple, 4 lines down. If, when you honestly want to, you find you cannot quit entirely, or if, when drinking, you have little control over the amount you take, you are probably alcoholic. If that be the case, you may be suffering from an illness which only a spiritual experience will conquer. Oh, Julie, thanks for coming. Julie, we're recording this, so it's going to go on YouTube. So if you don't want your voice on YouTube. Anyway, from there we go to page 52. And second full paragraph, 3 lines down. We are having trouble with personal relationships. We couldn't control our emotional natures. We were prey to misery and depression. We couldn't make a living. We had a feeling of uselessness. We were full of fear and were unhappy. We couldn't seem to be of real help to other people. Alrighty. If everyone who wants to, I want us to individually say out loud, and I'll start out with, my name is Rick. I am powerless over my binge foods. My life has become unmanageable.
My name is Betty. I'm powerless over my binge foods and my life has become unmanageable.
My name's Terry. Powerless over my binge foods and my life has become unmanageable.
I'm Mara. I'm powerless over my binge foods and my life has become unmanageable.
I'm Sandy. I'm powerless over my binge foods and my life has become unmanageable.
Okay, Betty, can you put the first step prayer up on the screen? we're going to do in unison the first step prayer.
Okay, hold on, let's do that.
Betty is helping me out because I'm technically challenged.
Okay. All right, now, let's see if we can get the first. It's over here. Can everybody see it?
Yes. All righty, we're going to do this in unison. Prayer. God, creative
Creative
intelligence,
intelligence,
universal mind,
universal mind,
spirit of nature,
spirit of nature,
spirit of the
or
universe.
spirit of the universe.
My name
My
is Rick.
name is Beth,
I'm a real
and I'm a real
compulsive
overeater.
I need your help
need your
today.
help today.
Amen.
Amen.
Alrighty, I want us to give ourselves a hand because we've done step 1. We're done. Now, we go to step 2. On page 45 in the book Alcoholics Anonymous, we're going to do the first full paragraph. If somebody wants to read, you can.
Page 45?
Yeah, 45, starting with lack of power, that was our dilemma.
I can read if you want me to read.
Yeah, that would be great.
Lack of power, that was our dilemma. We had to find a power by which we could live, and it had to be a power greater than ourselves, obviously. But where and how were we to find this power?
And then I'll read, there's a little more, but I'm going to read it so we know. Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main object is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem. That means we have written a book which we believe to be spiritual as well as moral. It means, of course, that we are going to talk about God. Now, we go to page 55, and then we read the second, third, and fourth full paragraph. Would somebody want to read that?
Read.
Excellent.
Actually, we were fooling ourselves, for deep down in every man, woman, and child, it is the fundamental idea of God. It may be obscured by calamity, by pomp, by worship of other things, but in some form or other it is there. For faith in a power greater than ourselves and miraculous demonstrations of that power in human lives are facts as old as man himself. Finally saw that faith is some kind of God, in some kind of God, is a part of our makeup, just as much as the feeling we have for a friend. Sometimes we had to search fearlessly, but he was there. It was as much a fact as we were. We found the great reality deep down within us. In the last analysis, it is only there that he may be found. It was so with us. We can only clear the ground a bit. If our testimony helps sweep away prejudice, enables you to think honestly, encourage you to search diligently within yourself, then if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. With this attitude, you cannot fail. The consciousness of your belief is sure to come to you.
Thanks, Terry. And then what to do if you don't believe, that's on page 46. And I'll read this. This is the first full paragraph, third line. We found that as soon as we were able to lay aside prejudice and express even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, we commenced to get results, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power, which is God. Much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make the approach and to effect a contact with Him. As soon as we admitted the possible existence of a creative intelligence, a spirit of the universe underlying the totality of things, we began to be possessed by a new sense of power and direction, provided we took other simple steps. We found that God does not make too hard terms to those who seek Him. To us, the realm of the Spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding to those who earnestly seek. We believe it is open to all men. When therefore we speak to you of God, we mean your own conception of God. This applies to other spiritual expressions you find in this book. Do not let any prejudice you may have against spiritual terms deter you from honestly asking yourself what they mean to you. At the start, this was all we needed to commence spiritual growth, to affect our first conscious relation with God as we understood Him. And then we skip down to the next full paragraph. We need to ask ourselves but one short question. Do I now believe, or am I even willing to believe, that there is a power greater than myself? As soon as a man can say that he does believe or is willing to believe, we emphatically assure him he is on his way. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. Okay, Betty, we have our second step prayer, and let's go around individually, and I'll start out. My name is Rick, and I believe that a power greater than myself can restore us to sanity.
My name is Terry. I'm a compulsive overeater, and I believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity.
I'm Mara. I'm a compulsive overeater, and I believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity.
I'm Betty, a compulsive overeater, and I believe that a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity.
I'm Sandy. I'm an overeater, and I believe a power greater than ourselves can restore us to sanity.
I'm Mary Ann, and I believe a power greater than ourselves can restore me to sanity.
We're glad you're here. And Mary Ann, we're recording this. It's going to go on YouTube.
That's fine.
Okay. I want to make sure nobody gets surprised. We're going to do our second step prayer in unison now. Prayer. God, I'm standing at the
turning point right now.
Right now,
Give
Give
me
me your
protection
protection and care
as I
abandon myself to you
and
and
give
give
up
up my old ways
and my old
and give
ideas
my old ideas
just
just
for
for
today.
today.
Amen.
Let's give ourselves a hand because we've done step 2.
Yay.
Excellent. So, no surprise, we go to step 3. Then we go to page 60 in the book Alcoholics Anonymous. The first, and this is at the part of the last full paragraph, the first requirement is that we be convinced that any life run on self-will can hardly be a success. On that basis, we are almost always in collision with something or somebody, even though our motives are good. And then we go to page 62, and the first full paragraph, selfishness, self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt us, seemingly without provocation. But when we invariably find that at some time in the past, we have made decisions based on self, which later placed us in a position to be hurt. So our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. They arise out of ourselves, and the alcoholic is the extreme example of self-will run riot, though he usually doesn't think so. Above everything, we alcoholics must be rid of this selfishness. We must, or it will kill us. God makes that possible, and there often seems to be no way of getting rid of self without his aid. And then we skip down to this is the how and why of it. First of all, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter in this drama of life, God was going to be our director. He is the principal, we are his agents. He is the Father, and we are his children. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone of the new and triumphant arch through which we passed to freedom. When we sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. We had a new employer, being all-powerful. He provided what we needed if we kept close to him and performed his work well. Established on such a footing, we became less and less interested in ourselves, our little plans and designs. And then we go to the next paragraph. We were now at step 3. Many of us said to our Maker as we understood him, God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me of the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help of thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. Now, everyone, we're going to do the third step prayer in unison. And you can just read it right out of the big book if you have the big book. Prayer. God, I offer myself
to thee,
to build with
to
me
build with me
and do
and to
with
do with me
as
as
thou
thou
wilt.
wilt.
Relieve me
Relieve me of the bondage of self,
that I may better
that I may
thy
better
will.
do thy will.
Take away my
Take away my
difficulties,
difficulties,
that victory
that
over
victory
them
over them
may bear
may bear
witness
witness to those
I would
I would
help
help
of thy
of
power,
thy
power,
thy love,
thy love,
and thy way of
and thy
life.
way of life.
May I do
May
thy
I
will.
do thy will always.
Amen.
All righty. Excellent. Let's give ourselves a hand because we've done step 3. This is great. This is tremendous. Now, we come to step 4. Betty, do you have the forms that we're going to be doing? We're going to get to do.
Yes, I will put them up here, and then I'm also going to drop them into the chat box. Let's see if I can do
We are
both of
glad Betty is here because this would be a very bad workshop if she weren't here. Oh, you have the forms, but we do readings. I skipped the readings that we're supposed to do for step 4. Alrighty, let's, we pick up the reading at the bottom of 63. Would somebody like to read starting at the bottom of 63 and most of the next 64? Next, we launched out on a course of vigorous action. Okay, I'll read.
I'll read it, Rick.
Okay.
Next week launched out on a course of vigorous action. The first step of which is personal house cleaning, which many of us had never attempted. Though our decision was a vital and crucial step, it could have little permanent effect unless it once followed by a strenuous effort to face and to be rid of the things in ourselves which have been blocking us. Our liquor was but a symptom, so we had to get down to causes and conditions. Therefore, we started upon a personal inventory. This was step 4. A business which takes no regular inventory usually goes broke. Taking a commercial inventory is a fact-finding and a fact-finding process. It is an effort to discover the truth about the stock in trade. One object is to disclose damaged or unsaleable goods to get rid of them promptly and without regret. If the owner of the business is successful, he cannot fool himself about values. We did exactly the same thing with our lives. We took stock honestly. First, we searched out the flaws in our makeup which caused our failure. Being convinced that self manifests in various ways was what had defeated us. We considered it its common manifestations. Resentment is the #1 offender, and it destroys more alcoholics than anything else. From it stem all forms of spiritual disease. We were not only mentally and physically ill, we have been spiritually sick. When the spiritual malady is overcome, we straighten out mentally and physically. In dealing with resentments, we sent them on paper. We listed people, institutions, or principles with whom we were angry. We asked ourselves why we were angry.
Okay, if we stop there, and then we jump to page 6.8, and I'll read this one, the first full paragraph. We reviewed our fears thoroughly. We put them on paper, even though we had no resentment in connection with them. We asked ourselves why we had them. Wasn't it because self-reliance failed us? Self-reliance was good as far as it went, but it didn't go far enough. Some of us once had great self-confidence, but it didn't fully solve the problem or any other. When it made us cocky, it was worse. And then on 69, first full paragraph, I missed something. And back on 64, they had me underline, our liquor was but a symptom. That's in the first paragraph up there on 64. Down in the paragraph, our liquor was but a symptom. And that's true for compulsive overeating. The compulsive overeating is but a symptom. And then on 69, we reviewed our own conduct over the past years. Where have we been selfish, dishonest, or inconsiderate? Whom had we hurt? Now, when I did this workshop, they had me underline, whom had we hurt? Did we unjustifiably arouse jealousy, suspicion, or bitterness? Were we at fault? What should we have done instead? We got this all down on paper and looked at it. Now, we're going to stop there. Betty, if you can put up our little forms. Oh, no?
I shared them and here they are.
Okay. I'm going to read this because I'm trying to follow my notes. Down here in the last paragraph, it says, we must be willing to make amends where we have done harm, provided that we do not bring about still more harm in so doing. And on page 70, does somebody want to do some reading? Because we start on the first full paragraph of 70 and read that in 71.
I will read.
Go ahead.
This is page 70, start where?
Suppose we fall short of our chosen ideal.
Suppose we fall short of the chosen ideal and stumble. Does this mean we are going to get drunk? Some people tell us so. But this is only a half-truth. It depends on us and our motives. If we are sorry for what we have done and have the honest desire to let God take us to better things, we believe we will be forgiven. and will have learned our lesson. If we are not sorry and our conduct continues to harm others, we are quite sure to drink. We are not theorizing. These are facts out of our experience. To sum up about sex, we earnestly pray for the right ideal, for guidance in each questionable situation, for sanity, and for the strength to do the right thing. If sex is very troublesome, we throw ourselves the harder into helping others. We think of their needs and work for them. This takes us out of ourselves. It quiets the imperious urge when to yield would mean heartache. If we have been thorough about our personal inventory, we have written down a lot. We have listed and analyzed our resentments. We have begun to comprehend futility and their fatality. We have commenced to see their terrible destructiveness. We have begun to learn tolerance, patience, and goodwill toward all men, even our enemies, for we look on them as sick people. We have listed the people we have hurt by our conduct and are willing to straighten out the past if we can. In this book, you read again and again that faith did for us what we could not do for ourselves. We hope you are convinced that God can remove whatever self-will has blocked you off from him. If you have already made a decision and an inventory of your grosser handicaps, you have made a good beginning. That being so, you have swallowed and digested some big chunks of truth about yourself.
Excellent, excellent, thank you. Now we're finally going to do our forms. Now on a blank sheet of paper, we do this for 10 minutes. We're gonna first put where it talks about, you write resentments. Who or what am I angry at? Who or what am I angry at? And then on the next line, fear inventory. What am I afraid of? What am I afraid of? And then third, harms inventory. Who have I harmed? Who have I harmed? And then the fourth category we're going to put on our inventory is, what are good things about myself? What are good things about myself? Now we're going to go for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. We're going to be writing our inventory for 10 minutes. And I'll start the time. Alrighty, everybody, that's about 10 minutes. And then if you can see on the, Betty, is there any way you can zoom in on that bottom part? And I muted you, Betty. I muted you and Terry. But we're gonna do a form. You probably can't even see what I'm doing, but we're gonna put 12 attributes on this form. There we go, that's excellent. And you're gonna space them all out across your page and put selfishness, and then on the other side you put, on the right side you put unselfishness. And then go down 3 or 4 lines, dishonesty, honesty, false pride, humility, jealousy, trust, envy, contentment, and then laziness and action. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend about 5 minutes writing down our personal characteristics. Where am I selfish? Where am I unselfish? And you only have to write an abbreviation, just something that means something to you. So we're going to do that for 5 minutes, and that starts now.